my name's Richard Gush, and I'm going to be running through this demonstration with you guys today. The idea is for us to showcase our new Takeoff tool and its integration between itself and our estimating application. After that, we'll touch on our new bid form for the clients to send through a quote directly from Methvin, and I'll also spend 20 minutes or so, or 20 to 30 minutes running through the estimating application. We generally have 3 or 4 good examples for you to help you get started, and just to give you an indication of what the software can actually do as well. So if we start by creating a new Takeoff, I'll start with the new Takeoff tool. So just one thing before we continue. It gets a little bit dry and stale if I'll end up blabbering or talking the whole way through. So if there's any queries or questions as we're going through, don't worry about typing them up because I'll miss them. Just interrupt quickly and ask them as we're running through the demonstration. It's best to capture it whilst it's relevant. So this is the Takeoff tool, and you can either just drag a fold here or go through the click here and upload a folder. Example folder here that I'll do. I'm going to do a quick lighting takeoff, and I'll do a quick road surface takeoff, just to give you an indication on how the whole tool works. As soon as you load a file, the scale form pops out, and here you have to set the scale. From previous experience, I know that there is 20 meters, and save. You've got a few options. If you use these tools at the top, they will auto generate sort of a parent-child relationship on the left, or you can hit the add new icon, this plus icon here, and here you've got the opportunity to indent and outdent. If you use this icon or this icon, it's to either create a new takeoff line item or to continue measuring. So let's say we wanted to start a new one, we could come here and say we want to do let's do a count, and we can start counting the actual light fittings. We pop through and start counting these lights. I'm doing it very fast and inaccurately, excuse my speed. And now let's say we want to capture the cable runs as well. So you'd either swap by using this option here to continue with a line measure, or we can add a new line item here and start measuring the cable. So the cables would run from the distribution board all the way through to the light fitting. And by doing that, you can see we've done a length. We could change that to the cable type. And we've got 24 meters. But at the moment, we've only measured that in plan, and there would be a drop down at each switch. So we've got the length. So for every length measure, we want to add a +2 meters to allow for the additional length from the wall down to double that to 4, to be honest. Do that in the length, sorry, I'm talking rubbish. I want to do that in the count for each. I'm trying to say, so for the length, you can't add the drop down. You'd have to add it for each number of line items that you had. So at the end of the day, let's say we do from this distribution and run all the way through to the end. Same for this one. And by the time we've finished, we've done three runs there. So we'd want that plus 3 times 6 would give you the correct answer for the drops, 86 meters, the length of cabling. So now we've only counted half the light fittings. So if we want to carry on counting these light fittings, all we have to do is go back to this line item, the count, and hit this button here, and it tells you we're going to continue measuring, and we can just continue measuring the light fittings as we run through them. And if we want to then swap to counting these light fittings, it's a new light fitting. We can either just go to another count or run through and create another count through the parent-child relationship here by either using this and go new count, and that'll add a new count measure here, and we can then start counting this light fitting type. Nice and easy. Any questions before I continue with an example of a pavement takeoff? We run through what you can do again, same story, is just upload a new file, either by on the right hand side here, all your settings for your system settings. So this is to reset a scale. If you've made a mistake with your original scale, you can always change it at any time. You just got to be cautious how you set this. So if you've changed the units here and you change the scale and unclick this, all the units will change. If you leave it, and I'll explain what it'll make sense when we do an earthworks a pavement takeoff shortly. Cancel. You can export to PDF, export to Excel. You can upload new files, and this takes you to your files that you've already got. So we want to quickly upload a pavement file. Okie dokie. Go to page 2. Page 3, we know that's 20 meters. You want to set the same scale for every page. If you've got 10 pages and they all have exactly the same scale, you just select that. If you don't do it the first time, it's not available from then on, and you'll have to do each page separately. And we hit save. So now we've set the scale. Let's say we want to pick up this access road, new access road. We can just run through selecting the area measure. We can zoom in. I didn't show you that as well. So as you're clicking, if you've made a mistake out there, you can go escape, and then continue clicking. And if you've made some more mistakes, you can just keep doing it. If you escape more than 4 times, the whole measure will be lost. You can drag and move the drawing around whilst you're still measuring quite easily as well. Roughly. Okay. So there we've got the square meters of that pavement, and let's say we want to use that same measure few times to allow for the asphalt, the subbase, and the base course, you can come to this icon. It lets you duplicate the measure, and we can do that twice. We'll call this segment or something along those lines, and we can call this this one subbase. To then adjust these quantities to suit the actual measurement that you're looking for. Let's say you want to measure these the base course in tons. You can come here and you can say, let's say it's 150 mil thick. You go times 0.15 to get it into cubic meters, 100 mil thick. And then you could also go times by, and we've got a set variable called S kilograms, which is the which will give you the density of the steel. What am I saying? Daydreaming. Sorry. So it would be times 2.4 for tons per meter cube, just to help understand what we're doing here. And this you could say 150 meters thick. So there we've converted the square meters that we'd measured into a ton rate, and here you can adjust the unit to suit as well. Tons, and let's say this one you wanted to measure in cubic meters, and it was the subbase is 200 millimeters thick. We've then got you've got 19.52 is cubed of base course. So you'll see if you select one of these line items, the other three highlight light yellow, just showing you that they all relate to the same measure. If you click on a measure, it will also go back and revert. Oh, sorry, you got this one measure on here, but you are able to come into the cable. Let's say you come into this cable length. Sorry, it's on a different drawing. So only the measurements that are on the current set of drawings. Let's say we do a drawing here on page 1, just for the fun of it. And we can do another area measure, just for the fun of it, doesn't matter. And let's say we wanted to get to this concrete pavement measure. As soon as you click on it, all the measures that you've done, we only did one on here on page 2, are available or are shown. And you'll see these are all relevant to the current plan that we're looking at. This is page 2, and if you click on page 2, it'll open us up to that measurement that we were looking at previously. So when you've got a huge schedule, it becomes quite handy jumping between drawings. Okay, between pages, sorry. That nearly wraps it up for the Takeoff tool. Any questions before I continue?
Hi there, Richard. Just wondering if you're doing say an area takeoff and you would like to maybe measure a smaller area within that pavement area which you measured, is there some way to hide the measure so that you can measure a smaller area within it?
Yes, so we have a properties field which lets you turn on and off the measurements, and you've also, if you want to just hide all the current images or drawings that you've actually done on the page, you can hide them to then make it much more clearer. If you want to, for argument's sake, count something that would be in the way of the current drawing you've got, and as soon as you show it all, they'll pop back. You got to just got to reverse the view. Anything else?
Nice. That's good. Thanks.
I didn't mention earlier that the idea is I'm going to sort of spend 15 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes on the Takeoff tool, then another 10 or so minutes on the bid form. And then we'll jump into a quick run through of the estimating application. To do it justice, it's really our core application. It'll take about an hour just to run through all the features, but I'm going to shoot through and just highlight the key features in about 20 minutes, just to give everybody an overview. If I had to try and explain the capability of our software, our estimating tool would be like a Rolls Royce when it comes to estimating capability in the market. And our Takeoff tool would be, I would have said in the past, a mini miner, but now minis are quite sought after vehicles. So I don't know. But yes, it's definitely, it's improved dramatically from our previous version, and people love it for its simplicity. But there are definitely some more powerful tools out there. But what really makes it handy now is all of this measure that you've done here it can now be taken straight through to the estimate, making everyone's life a lot easier. Yeah. Any other questions? You don't want to listen to me rattling on for an hour without asking too many questions.
Just wondering, as I noted that it is, like you just mentioned, quite a big new feature of the update. Are you going to now move into demonstrating how to push your Takeoff through into producing a schedule that you can send through to the client?
Correct.
Because obviously you can start building your hierarchy of your schedule in the Takeoff tool, and that all comes through.
Correct.
So I'd be keen to see that. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, that's the plan. So to run through, to push this into a pricing module now, we've got two options. We've got a new estimate directly here in the Takeoff, and this is more for tradies or people that understand their rates and don't need to actually use the power of the Takeoff tool. They've either priced it in Excel, or they just know that if they're a painter or a tiler, they just know their rates off by heart, and they can just select the estimate tool. And if they come through and they know these light fittings are going to be $500 each, and the cable runs are going to be $25, and the count was another light fitting. Let's say that is $560 for those light fittings, and you run down for the concrete. And if they know their rates here, let's say the concrete itself is $80 a square meter, and that is $55 per ton. And you can run that through and rate a schedule like this. I'm just throwing numbers now. So now this is for somebody that doesn't want to use the full estimating tool, that they just want to quickly throw in rates and have a schedule. And you'll see here, we've now rated that bill up to $35,000. If we go here to the Create Bill Report, we'll open up our report. And here we are left with the option to either show the full client report, or you can break it down per sections. If you wanted to just show level 1, it'll just show the 2 section levels that we had here, which was the new task and the art warehouse. Depending what you want to show the client, you can show just a lump sum if you want as well, and it'll just show the summary. If you want, you can write yourself a nice scope of work and inclusions and exclusions and so on and so forth. But you've also got the option to save these as templates and then just import from a template from a previous job. So if I've got this master template, I can just hit select. Oh, good. Just select the template and it'll import all the measures for, I mean, the estimate and send word, and it's dropped all the scope and your inclusions and exclusions for the job. And now we can show section 1 or the full client. When it comes to things like the client schedule and the full schedule, these relate more to the full pricing application, which we'll get to shortly. And you've got the tags and the notes are also come from the pricing application. So for this example, you'd definitely have them off. If you want to add a profit to your project, you switch it on there, come in here and you can add your markup, let's say 15%, and hit save. And that'll add a 15% markup to the project. So you got the 30. And in the US, if you're doing a project for the state or the government, you have to actually declare your profit up front. But most probably projects, you'll just turn it off and hide it, and that'll just spread it through the rates here, the 15%. If you've got taxes that you need to include or exclude, let's say we need to add 15%. In the US, they've got taxes. I'll show this feature later as well. They've got other taxes where they have to declare how much materials and labor they've got, and they pay about 7.5%. It depends which state they're in as well, but they've got to pay around 7.25% on their labor and plant. Their labor and materials. So we've got a feature here. If in your resource table you've set that up correctly, you can then filter out just your labor and materials and add that percentage on here, and it just adds under through here. So once you're happy with the layout of your schedule, you come here to send bid, and in here you've got an option who you want to send it to. If you open up this, it'll show how many you've sent to somebody already. And if you want to edit, you can edit here, or you can add a new client if you want there as well. We're just going to hit send. You'll see if you hit send the first time, it'll tell you need to select one, which means you actually have to highlight the one that you want. And you'll see in the background, that's now thrown in their details here. And you can just export that to PDF right here if you want, or you can come here and select it and then actually hit send, and that'll send the PDF through an email through our system directly to that user. Okay, well, let me quickly do it. There we've sent it. The idea is if we then go back and open this up, you'll see it's been sent through, and you've actually got a copy of the PDF that's been sent through to them as well, with the inclusions, exclusions, the whole breakdown of the project. Okay. Any questions on this tool? We will touch on it for a brief time when we come back from the estimating application. Yes, but you'll have to hold your hats. Hold on to your hats when we get into the estimating. I'll go through it incredibly fast, and that's one hell of a lot to take in in such a short time. But if you're interested in the estimating tool, happy for you to just get hold of us, or there's videos to watch or help as well. So whatever whichever way you find easiest to learn. I would recommend just getting hold of myself and asking for a demonstration. It'll be, even after I've run through it now, just showing you the highlights, it'll be a tough ask to go away and price with it unless you're familiar with this type of first principles pricing. Okay, any questions on the bid form? No. Okay. So if we, so at the moment we jumped into the estimate here, these tabs at the top, the takeoff and the estimate, and I haven't uploaded the file. You can, if you want, I just skipped the file, but if you go here, there's the two files we loaded, and if you click on it, it'll open the file for us, just for you, just showing you how it works. But this icon here will take you to, will export this schedule as it stands now to our full estimating application. We jump into there. It will, it drops that schedule, same as, now we've priced it unfortunately, but I'll reprice it using the estimating tool as opposed to that, just plugging the rates. So here you've got options to set the levels as well. At the moment set to level 1. If you want to go to level 2, see everything, so on and so forth. Yeah, as well, you can add more line items if you want in here, and they will appear in the takeoff if you go back there if you want to measure something later. But let's say we wanted to import a schedule as well. Clients provided us with a schedule. You can just Explorer and find it. Demo here floating around somewhere. So if the client's given you a schedule, you've either got an option to run through the menus here and go to the file itself, or you can just come into open a file, highlight the columns you want to import and hit Control Copy, and then in here you can go the Control Copy Paste or Control Verify. And you'll see that opens our preview, our mapping tool. So in the mapping tool, what it lets us do is select map the columns. So when we import it into Methvin, it knows where all the data needs to go. So this is the description, this is the quantity unit, the unit. So you'll see when we import it, it'll give us actually the total of all these sum, and we call it the hash total, just to check that everything's gone in and we're comfortable that we've imported. Because sometimes some of these schedules could be 3,000, 8,000 line items, and you want to know that every line item's gone in. So if you do a check in Excel, if you highlight that column and do the sum of it, when we finish, it'll tell you exactly. It'll also tell us that there's an error on line 1 because that is text and not a numeric field. So if I go import now, it's going to run and say issue imported is 0. Oh, I didn't. Sorry, I must have not selected the quantities correctly. So it gave us a hash total of 0, but I can quickly redo that. Any tasks, and then verify and import. Set to quantity. So it'll tell us there's an error on line 1 because we're trying to import numerical text into a numerical field, and there's the hash total that I told you of all the sums. So you see it's dropped in that full schedule for us. Now, if we wanted to start pricing, I'm not going to show you. I'm going to show you the cheats now. Normally, if I'm doing a demonstration, I'll be more specific and run through the slower systems, or explain it in much more detail. But what you can do on the right-hand side here, you'll see we've got the copy from master tab, and on the left-hand side, we've got all your projects, your estimating projects. So if we come to the right-hand side here and select this copy from master, and then here we've got this button to select a project, we can come here and find any project we want for argument, say Control F, and we want example. And there's two ways to price it. You can either drag the whole line item, like the silt pond and salt fence in, and it'll actually create these two new line items for us. Or you can, or you've got the option to open an unpriced line item. For argument's sake, here we've got a same salt pond. Open that line item, and we can then drag the silt pond straight into there. Sorry, you can only drop one at a time. We want to drop that silt pond in here. This is now showing you the worksheet, how we're going to price up the silt pond. And you'll see there's a whole lot of gumph here. And the best way to explain this is, let me close that and close this. Do you want to close save changes? Yes. So the best way to explain this is that this is your schedule of prices, and behind each schedule of prices, you've got nearly an Excel worksheet, but a little bit different to Excel worksheet. It's nearly more like a price, a coding worksheet, nearly. It's like a combination between a coding line item, if you did coding at university or at school, yeah. So it's sort of a combination between an Excel spreadsheet and coding language that we use to price this, and that's where the power of this pricing tool comes in, because once you've set up one of these worksheets, you can see how easy it is to copy it from one project to the next. But if you spend the time and effort to get it right, you take the risk of pricing the job away by giving yourself a little bit of an edge, I would say. So you'll see here the best way to explain the software is that you come and you write out your scope of work nearly, or your most common denominators, and generally what you do is you set variables. So we're saying, yeah, pond excavation, we've got meters cubed, and we've got given a variable PV for pond variation, pond volume, and these you can type anything you want here. If I change this now, you'll see it'll break, because you can see I've used that PV already, so it's breaking the whole code. But if I leave it the way it is, it'll be happy. And then you set the volumes. So just imagine we want to now do a much bigger pond. All we do is change the volume that we're going to excavate. And at the bottom here, this 29,000 will suddenly jump up to 89,000, because we have to move so much more dirt. And by doing this, if you set up your logic correctly all the way through, you save yourself a hell of a lot of time and make life, or make your estimating so much more accurate. So the idea is you set variables. So here we're setting the variables. Then afterwards, you can use those variables in equations, like we've got this the pond volume times by 2, and that's to excavate the pond that you've gone and then backfill it when you leave the site later. So if you hover over there as well, it'll tell you what the variable is. You can read there, pond excavation, 5,200 meters cubed. So the idea is you set variables, use those variables in equations, and then set your answer of those equations against resources, which at any time from inside here, you can add more resources. So let's say this excavation, if I want to add another line item, I can just hit add. You see it's added another line item underneath here, and I can create any arbitrary resource that I want. And if I hit enter, it's going to ask me where I want to save it now. And you'll see these are the plug rates from the Takeoff tool, and this is the resource table. If I double click in here, I can save that. If that resource that I've just created was a plant, or let's say it's material, and I want to save it under environmental, I can create. It's now created this new resource for me. I can give it a rate. Let's say it's $55 per each, or whatever it is. And let's say we need 20 of them. C is if, because you got the 55 times 20, what it does is it takes the answer and it multiplies that by the number. We've only got one, so the answer is 11,000. 1100, 1%. Okay, if we save that, save changes, yes. I could have shown you how. So that resource that we created is what we call a simple resource. And where the power of this software comes in is 90% of estimating tools that are out there. That's as far as you can go. Is you can set up as many resources as you want, and then and then you set them against a line item that you're pricing. Whereas you'll see this cut to waste here. This is a black resource rate, and this is a green one. What it means is this resource is actually a complex resource. It's made up of a whole lot of other resources to come to this cut to waste rate of $7.50. If I double click on it, what it actually does is it opens that complex resource. CR stands for complex resource, and cut to fill. Now we're inside this resource, where you can see we've got the bulking factor, we've got the bucket size, we've got all the setting all the variables for the excavator to determine how much dirt it can or material it can move. Then we'll come through here and we're working out the haul distance that we need to move this material on site. And if you change any of these variables, it'll adjust your rate. And smaller rate changes on big numbers can have a huge difference in your price. So as you'll see here, we'll have I haven't got an if statement here. Oh, there we have got actual production rate. So you can even put in if statements here. So I'm deciding which production rate, whether I want to use the production rate of the trucks or the production rate of the excavator. And I've used an if statement here, same way you would in Excel or in coding. I've got if the excavator production rate versus the prime mover production rate, and then you've got either the one, or if it's false, it'll be the other. So if the one's bigger than the other, it'll use this one. Okay, very handy. And if we jump down, you'll see here we've got a whole lot more complex resources. So we can dive further into that rate that we've got and look at the excavator, how it was priced up. We jump into there, that $105 is made up or with its own fancy worksheet as well, with the kilowatts, the insurance, and all sorts of things. And generally, you use the kilowatt power of the machine to determine the fuel usage and things like that. But it totally depends. For argument's sake, let's say you're on site and you're doing a building project, and you want to determine, let's say you want to make some concrete and on site for a beam or something like that. You can start off with your most simple resources, would be the sand, cement, and stone. Then you could take those and add them into one called concrete, where you then add a mixer, some labor to work the mixing machine, and then add all the product to that. So what you're doing is you're building the resources up from first principles. Very few estimating softwares, from what I can find, there's only 3 that have a very similar capability to give you this kind of accuracy and detail. So where it comes really handy is if you've priced this really well, last minute when it comes to reviewing any of these jobs, you can come to, I didn't show you this. So when we would have started, this resource would have had 0 line items in it. But as we've priced from the master, it's brought every line or resource that's required to price it. You can copy, import the full master resource if you want. Mine would be like 2,000-3,000 line items. So here we'll only have a couple of line items, totally dependent on what type of work you're pricing. But where it comes into its own, let's say last minute the diesel cost is going to change. On a big earthworks job, if your diesel goes up by 20 cents, it can change, or for some reason you need to get your diesel into a really tricky spot in the top of a hill, and you need to allow for that. A small on a $100 million job, a small change in the diesel cost can be $1 or $2 million. By just making one change to that diesel rate here, it will, for argument's sake, let's say we're going to now buy this for $1.30 instead of 38. And as soon as we hit save here, do you want to save changes? Yes, that'll update every piece of plant where that diesel is being used, the allowable for that plant, so the hourly rate for that plant. Everywhere that plant is being used in a complex resource like cut to fill or things like that, or cut to waste, it'll update those, and then all the way through to actually your schedule as well. Every line item where you've used it, it'll update those changes as well through. So by doing that, it gives you incredible power. You have to go through this effort to develop these tenders in this format. But once you've done it, you can see how easy it is to copy these worksheets in from a previous job. And if you've set it up correctly, you can, if you price very similar work continuously, you've got a few options. So let's say you do this and it's like a spillway, and you do exactly the same work for the same client. You can just come here and duplicate a whole project. And by doing that, you've just got a copy. All you do is come in here, open it, and remeasure the changes, and you've got the fully priced out schedule. All you have to do is change your quantities, and you won't have to measure one line item or reprice one line item. You've got a fully priced schedule. You just have to adjust your quantities to suit. And as you make those changes, to the quantities, it'll tell you exactly how many resources you need. So I didn't show you that. Yeah. So this is a construction worker first class. Class 2 at $24 an hour we're paying him, and he's been used for 980 man hours throughout the project. And if we right click on this here and hit cross-reference, there's two. There's one for subcontractors, so you can look at the schedule of frontage, or there's this one. It'll actually show you where that laborer has been used throughout this project. And you can see he's only been used in resources, in complex resources. That rate hasn't been used in any schedule of prices yet. But if we go to one of these rates, one of these resources, you'll see, and if I cross-reference that, where is he? Labor control, engineering, labor. So if I come into this laborer and if I cross-reference him now, it'll show where he's been used in the schedule. You can see he's been used on these actual line items in the schedule. Also, let's say we've got a subcontractor here. I don't know if I've got a good, we've got a steel subcontractor. And if I want to know where that $8,800 comes from, if I cross-reference the SOP, it'll show me each line item and the full schedule. It's only been used in one line item. Unfortunately, that's this one. But if he was used in 100 line items, it would show each line item, the parent-child relationship of it. And that becomes the subcontractor's schedule matching up to your costs 100%. If we jump through to any questions, we've only got 10 minutes left, so it's a hell of a lot to take in. I lost everybody a long time ago. Not for the faint-hearted. Only 3 remaining. It's a lot to take in. No questions.
No questions, Richard. But looks damn impressive to me.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot to take in if nobody's used this type of software before, but I'm just trying to show the highlights of it and give people an idea of its capability. So hopefully it's helping. So here's the markup where you can set the markup for the whole project, and that'll mark up each resource. But if I jump back to the pricing, you'll see we've now adjusted the markup from, it was 17% to 15%. But you can also imbalance each line item if you want. Let's say we realized whilst we were measuring this that the client had made a mistake. This isn't 21 meters. There's actually 2,000 meters of it. And we don't want to make 15%. We want to walk away with a decent markup. We can come up here and we can say, let's mark that up 35%. And what it'll do is it'll locks that line item. So any changes we make to this 15 will adjust all the other markups, but won't affect this markup because it's been locked, and this will remain at 30%. But you can also, if you want to change that rate from let's say the 6,000 it was to 7,500, you can do that as well. Do you want to change this? Yes. And that's now set this line item's markup to 50%, 55%. And the idea is if you've imbalanced this correctly, when you come to site and deliver this job, you deliver 2,000 of this as opposed to 21, you're going to make a substantially increase your margin substantially. These things can play can also play against you if you make a mistake. So use this type of thing with caution. That's all I can say. But yes, a handy feature to have. Let me try and jump back to the I didn't touch on that. So if we've got a job if we've priced a job that's got tags and notes, you can come here and write up some tags that you want to explain to the client why or a reason for the tag, that you may want to paint the wheel blue and not black for some reason. Or if you want to communicate between yourselves and your team, you've also got the option to jump in here. And what this does is opens the project management tool, and under notes and tags, it'll add a new line item here for that line item that you can then start communicating with your team about. You can upload images here, files, or whatever you want. PDF, you can upload the drawings, or even specifications, or even add links to information that helped you price the line item. Anything. Very handy tool, because once you've done that, take its time. But once you've done that, as soon as you've jumped back to here's your two options: either to jump back to the takeoff if you want to continue doing more takeoff, or to the client bid form. It takes a little while, unfortunately, but this will open the client bid form, and in here it lets you manipulate that form that we were looking at previously. And I'll show you how you can, if you're in the US, you've got the ability to set your markups for that line item. Sorry, for the material or labor. Wasn't linked to that. Was I in? I was linked to. So if we come in here and in the schedule, we could, I didn't show you. There's a few tricks in the trade here as well, which I didn't show you. All of these, if you've got a whole lot of items that are identical, you can select one and use this link worksheets. So you select one price item, and let's say you've got 10 items, other items that are identical, and you want to use the same worksheet. You select that one priced item, all the unpriced ones, and just click this linked, and it actually then uses that same one worksheet across all those line items. And then we've also got this option here, which is very handy. Often a client will ask, give us one line item to build a bridge, like a $3 million bridge. They're just interested in the number. You can then select that line item, click this create subschedule, and it lets you then build as much detail as you want behind that line item that then folds up to the client schedule. So if you jump back in here and highlight the client schedule, it'll hide all the piling and the substructure work and the ground improvements that you did to create that bridge, and only show the one line item that the client wanted there. Or if you, even though he's only wanted to give you something, but you want to show everything, you could select the full schedule and show the full schedule, including all your workings, if you wanted to send that to a client as well. So same as before, you can add in your scope of work and things. You should be able to add your notes and tags now. And you'll see here, it's put in all the notes and tags that we had against each line item. So this is the line item of the schedule. And you can jump between either the auto number or the actual client's item number, depending which one you want. Sometimes the client actually gives us the item number, and you have to use it. So here it just lets you choose between the two. And there's the client's full schedule, including your tags and one note that we had that we made just recently. And then if you're in the US and you need to now capture your your tax separately, you'll see here you've got the option to select the tax you need. And let's say we need to capture the labor and the materials, and we want to give it a rate of about 7.25 in Texas. But to do one at a time, sorry, I forgot. But if I go back here and set the other one as well, and this one also to 7.25, and hit say, I'll just enter, will do it. You'll see now we've got the taxes for the US for the labor and plant at 7.5% added onto the total bill amount of. I want to show the tax, show the profit, and lump sum. I'll show the full schedule. You'll have the full amount. So you got the 4.8 million plus the 12% taxes, gives you the $4.496 million. So yes, I think we're 2 minutes shy of time. Just leaves people opportunity to ask last few questions before we call it a day. Yeah, fire away. Pleasure. I hope that was of help to you. So, yeah, if it's not along your line, please let other people know about it. Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Chat. Thank you. Chat later. If you want to set up demos or just run through chat on how I can help, if you go to the website, there's all sorts of ways that you can get hold of me, or you can just email me at richardgush@methvin.org. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Much appreciated. Bye.